My wife secretly had an affair with my business partner and convinced me to sign over our 200-acre estate worth $5 million, only to find out she was planning to sue me for a fake inheritance and keep all the millions she stole from our joint account. I feel completely betrayed and ruined. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this. You think you know someone, you trust them with everything, and then one day it all falls apart in the most brutal way possible. The crazy part, it started with just a few weird signs, little things I brushed off as stress or work problems. But then I found out the truth, and man, it hit me like a freight train. So here's the deal. My wife Emily and I had been married for about 10 years. We built a pretty good life together, nice house, a couple of cars, a 200-acre estate that I was proud of. I worked hard running a manufacturing business. Emily stayed home part-time taking care of the kids and the house. Honestly, I thought we were solid. Sure, we had our arguments, but nothing that seemed out of the ordinary. But then I started noticing her phone. She'd hide it more, keep it close, even when she went to the bathroom. She'd get defensive if I asked to see it, and her excuses were always flimsy. "It's just a work thing," she'd say, or "it's private." I let it slide at first. I told myself I was just being paranoid. But then I caught her in a lie. She told me she was out with her sister, but I saw her texting someone late at night, a guy named Jake from her gym. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the way she was acting, secretive, nervous, something was off. One day I came home early from work. I wanted to surprise her, maybe take her out to dinner. Instead, I found her in our bedroom, wrapped around Jake. They were on my bed, kissing, completely unaware of me standing in the doorway. My stomach sank. I couldn't breathe. I just stared, frozen. In that moment, I saw everything I thought was real, the trust, the love shatter into a million pieces. I didn't say a word. I just turned around and left the house. I needed to process what I'd just seen. I didn't cry or get angry right then. I just felt numb. When I got to the garage, I sat in my truck and stared at the dark night outside. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Was she cheating on me before? Was Jake just a fling, or was there more? And most importantly, how do I even begin to deal with all this? I thought about everything we had built, our life, our home, the trust I'd given her. It felt like that trust was just a fragile glass, and she'd shattered it without even a second thought. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I needed evidence. I started digging into her phone and emails. That's when I found the proof, screenshots, texts, even explicit photos of them together. She'd been sneaking around for months, convincing me to sign over our estate, telling me how much she loved me, how she wanted a future with me. Meanwhile, she was planning to run off with Jake and keep everything I worked for. The worst part, she wasn't even sorry. When I confronted her, she lied. Said I was overreacting, that Jake was just a friend, that I was paranoid. She looked me right in the eyes and told me I was crazy for thinking she'd cheat, that she loved me and only me. I could see the contempt in her eyes, like I was just some fool she was pretending to care about. That night I felt like I was living in a nightmare. My wife, the woman I loved, was lying to me, cheating on me and planning to take everything I had. The estate, the money, everything. She convinced me to sign papers, documents I now realize she forged or manipulated, giving her control over the estate, all based on her lies. I was so blindsided I didn't even think about the consequences at first. I just wanted to understand how she could do this to me, to us. How she could be so cruel, so manipulative. I've been through a lot in my life, but this was something else. Entirely. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and honestly I was furious. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly, manipulate me into trusting her just to screw me over? And the thing is, I know she's not done. I can feel it. There's more to this story, and I'm not sure how to come out of it without losing everything. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My mind kept circling back to her lies, her betrayal, the way she looked at me like I was some idiot who didn't see what was happening right in front of him. I spent days trying to piece together what she'd done, how deep her deception ran. The estate, the money, her plans to sue me over an inheritance she'd fabricated. All of it felt like a punch to the gut every time I thought about it. I knew I had to act fast. The first thing I did was dig into the legal side of things. I contacted my lawyer, a guy I'd known for years, and laid everything out. It turns out Emily had been grooming me for months, slowly convincing me to sign over the estate, making me believe I was protecting my family's future. She'd even staged a fake inheritance document, claiming I was set to inherit a fortune from her supposedly distant relative. She'd lied about that too. The inheritance was a complete fabrication. I found out she'd been secretly draining our joint account for months, siphoning off thousands of dollars into her own accounts. I had no idea. She'd kept me in the dark, playing the perfect wife, while behind my back she was planning her escape with Jake and planning to take everything I owned. The estate, the money, the business. She wanted it all. I could see now how her bitchy, manipulative attitude had been hiding all this. When I confronted her with the evidence, she snapped. Said I was paranoid, that I was just jealous of Jake, that I was ruining everything because I was insecure. She threw everything back in my face, accused me of being controlling, jealous, and said I was paranoid because I didn't want her to have her freedom. She even dared to tell me I was overreacting, that she loved me and was only trying to do what was best for our family. I couldn't believe her lies. It was like she was a different person entirely. The betrayal tore me apart inside. I'd loved her for so long, trusted her with everything. I thought we had a future. But seeing her lie so effortlessly, knowing she'd been sleeping with Jake behind my back, made me realize I'd been living in a fantasy. My wife, the woman I married, was a master manipulator. She convinced me to sign over our estate, thinking I was protecting what we had, all while she was planning her escape route with her lover. I felt so stupid for not seeing the signs earlier. I'd been so blinded by her charm, her bitchy attitude at times, her supposed love for me. But now, all I saw was a woman who had no respect for her vows or the life we built. She had convinced me to sign papers, papers I now know she forged or manipulated, and I was left with nothing but the wreckage of my trust and a sense of utter betrayal. The emotional toll was crushing. I oscillated between anger, sadness, and disbelief. How could she do this? How could she lie to my face, steal from us, and then turn around and blame me for being suspicious? I was furious at her for the lies, but I was also heartbroken. I'd lost my wife, my partner, and the life I thought I knew. It felt like everything I'd worked for was slipping through my fingers. But I knew I couldn't just sit around and stew in my misery. I had to act. The legal battle was starting to take shape. I was filing for an annulment based on her fraud, and I was preparing to expose everything she'd done. I also started looking into her financials, trying to track down the money she'd stolen. I knew she'd kept some of it hidden, probably in offshore accounts or secret credit cards. I needed to find proof that would hold up in court and show her true colors. At the same time, I was trying to process my emotions. I felt like a fool for trusting her, for thinking she loved me. But beneath all that anger and heartbreak, there was a flicker of clarity. I realized I had to be strong, for myself and for my kids. They didn't deserve to live in this chaos, and I didn't want her to get away with everything she'd done. The most shocking part, she kept lying even when I had evidence. She told me I was paranoid, that she'd never cheat on me, that I was just insecure. She had the nerve to call me possessive and jealous when she was the one sneaking around. It was like she thought she could manipulate her way out of this mess, like she was untouchable. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not anymore. So here I am, in the middle of a storm I never saw coming. My marriage, my trust, everything I thought was real, crumbling before my eyes. And the worst part, I know this isn't over. She's planning something, I can feel it. She's dangerous and she's smart. I need to stay one step ahead. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. I can't let her steal everything from me, not just the estate, but my dignity too. I've got a fight on my hands, and I refuse to go down without a damn good fight. After I gathered enough evidence and got my lawyer involved, I realized the scope of Emily's deception went way beyond I initially thought. I started digging into her financial records myself, something I never thought I'd do, but I needed to see just how deep her lies went. It was shocking. She'd been funneling money into offshore accounts, setting up fake companies under fake names, and even opening new credit cards in my name, all without my knowledge. I confronted her about it one evening. She was trying to act innocent, throwing her usual "I love you, you're just paranoid, and you're overreacting" lines. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I had proof of her secret accounts, her forged signatures, everything. When I laid it all out, her face twisted into a mask of rage and contempt. She snapped at me, saying I was just jealous, that I was trying to control her, that I was paranoid because I didn't want her to have her freedom. That was when I realized her whole game was about control. She'd been manipulating me from the start. She knew I was a soft touch when it came to trust, and she used that to her advantage. She convinced me to sign over the estate, our biggest asset, by feeding me lies about protecting the family, about securing our future. Meanwhile, she was planning to run off with Jake, keep all the money, and leave me with nothing. I felt sick about how easily she'd lied to my face, how she'd convinced me to give her everything I'd worked for. I remember the day I finally decided to confront her head-on. I set up a meeting with her at the house, told her I had something important to discuss. She was acting so bitchy, tossing her hair, smirking like she already knew she'd won. I played it cool at first, but then I laid everything out: proof of the accounts, the forged documents, her secret plans. I watched her reaction carefully, waiting for her to crack. Instead, she just laughed, that bitchy, cold laugh that made my blood boil. "You're so paranoid," she sneered. "You think I'd do all that? You're just insecure. Maybe you're the one cheating." I couldn't even believe her audacity. She was trying to turn it around, make me look like the crazy one, but I'd had enough. I told her she was a liar, a cheat, and I was done playing her game. She looked furious, her eyes flashing with anger. "You think you can control me? You think I'm some innocent victim? I've been planning this for months, you idiot. You're just too blind to see it." That's when she admitted, almost casually, that she'd been sleeping with Jake for a long time, said it was just sex, that it didn't mean anything. Yeah, right. Like I was supposed to believe that crap when I had the proof of their explicit texts and photos. Hearing her say that, I felt my stomach turn. It was like she was trying to justify everything, like she was proud of the fact that she'd lied, cheated, and manipulated her way into what she wanted. She kept insisting I was overreacting, that I was just jealous, that I needed to get over it, but I knew better. I knew she was a liar, and this was just the beginning of her next move. The emotional roller coaster was relentless. I felt a mix of rage, heartbreak, and disgust. How could she do this to me, to our family? How could she lie so effortlessly, sleep with another man, and then have the nerve to accuse me of being insecure? It was like I was living in some twisted nightmare. I started to realize I'd been a fool to trust her at all, that her bitchy, manipulative nature had been hiding all this from me. I decided I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I'd already started the legal process to annul the marriage and reclaim what was mine. I knew she'd try to fight me. She always had a way of twisting things to her advantage, and I had to be ready. I also made plans to expose her in court, to show how she'd forged documents, drained our account, and lied about her plans. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done. More than anything, I was trying to keep my composure. Inside, I was a mess, angry, betrayed, and feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. But I knew I had to stay strong. I had to protect my kids from the fallout, from her bitchy attitude and her manipulations. I kept telling myself I'd get through this, that I'd come out the other side, even if it felt impossible right then. And you know what? I've learned a lot from all this. Trust is fragile, and sometimes the people you love the most can turn out to be the biggest liars. I don't regret loving her, but I regret not seeing the signs earlier. I realize now that I should have been more cautious, more suspicious when she started acting secretive. Because if I hadn't found that proof, I'd still be blind, still trusting her while she was planning her escape. The biggest lesson: never ignore the red flags. Never assume someone's loyalty is guaranteed just because they say they love you. Because when they betray you, it's a betrayal that cuts deep, and it doesn't just hurt. You question everything. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I won't let her steal my life. Not without a fight. The legal process has been a nightmare, honestly. I thought once I had the evidence, it would be straightforward, but Emily isn't just a liar, she's manipulative and cunning. She's already trying to spin the story, claiming I'm the one who's been controlling her, that I've been abusive, even though she's the one sneaking around behind my back. That bitchy attitude of hers has been on full display, trying to make me look like the bad guy in front of everyone. I hired a good lawyer, someone who's dealt with these kinds of betrayals before. We started by filing for an annulment based on fraud. It's complicated, especially when she's fighting to keep the estate, but I have enough proof of her deception. Those forged documents, the offshore accounts, the explicit texts, the photos, that I'm confident I can win. Still, it's draining. She's fighting back hard, hearing her own lawyer, trying to drag things out, and making wild accusations to muddy the waters. Meanwhile, I've been trying to recover what I can from the financial mess she's left behind. I've uncovered her secret accounts, but she's clever. She's moved money around, hidden assets, and tried to make it look like I'm the one stealing from her. It's infuriating. I've also had to deal with the emotional toll of seeing her lie so effortlessly, even now. She's been calling me paranoid, insecure, and even threatening to sue me for custody of the kids if I don't back off. It's her typical bitchy attitude, trying to intimidate and manipulate. One of the most shocking moments came when her lawyer sent a letter claiming I was physically abusive during our marriage. I lost my temper when I read that. I know I raised my voice a few times, but I've never laid a hand on her. That's her way of trying to turn things around to make me look like the bad guy. It's classic gaslighting. But I've got witnesses who can testify otherwise, and I've got all the messages and recordings that prove her lies. The kids have been the hardest part. They're too young to understand everything, but I see the confusion in their eyes. Emily has been trying to manipulate them, telling them I'm the bad guy, that I'm trying to keep them away from her. I never wanted it to come to this, but I can't let her control the narrative. I've been spending as much time with them as possible, making sure they feel loved and safe. I want them to know I'm still here for them, even if their mother is acting like a bitch. I also found out she's been trying to bribe some of our close friends and family members to support her story. It's disgusting. She's spreading lies, telling everyone I'm the one who's been cheating and abusing her. I've had to set up full records of her manipulations and lies, just in case she tries to turn the court of public opinion against me. I'm not a perfect person, but I'm not a liar or a cheat. I know the truth, and I've got the evidence to back it up. Honestly, I feel exhausted. The emotional roller coaster is relentless. Every day feels like a fight to keep my sanity. I keep telling myself I have to stay strong, not just for me but for my kids and for the future I still hope to rebuild. But some days I wake up feeling like I've been run over by a truck. The betrayal cuts so deep that it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. What keeps me going is knowing I didn't do this. I didn't cheat, manipulate, or steal. I trusted her and she threw it all back in my face, but I refused to let her win. I'm fighting to reclaim my life, my reputation, and my dignity. I'm trying to focus on what's real, my kids, my business, and the truth. I know she's not done yet, that she's planning her next move, but I'm prepared. I've learned to be cautious, to question everything, and most importantly, to stand my ground. If there's one thing I've realized through all this chaos, it's that betrayal cuts so much deeper than I ever thought possible. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. But I also learned that you have to pick yourself up and fight for what's right. No matter how bitchy or manipulative the other person gets, you have to stand tall. Because in the end, the truth will come out. And I'll be damned if I let her walk away with everything she's stolen. My estate, my money, my reputation. I owe myself that much. The court hearings have been a whirlwind. Every day feels like I'm stepping into a war zone, with her lawyer throwing everything she's got: lies, fake documents, manipulated witnesses. Emily's trying to paint me as the villain, claiming I was controlling, abusive, and even accusing me of stuff I've never done. It's maddening. But I've got the evidence, and I've been working tirelessly to piece everything together, to make sure the truth comes out. One of the most shocking moments was when I discovered she'd hired private investigators to dig up dirt on me. Yeah, she's that desperate. They found some old emails from years ago, nothing even close to what she's claiming, but she's using them to try to paint me as a bad guy. That bitch is trying to turn everything around, gaslighting everyone. But I've got my own team of witnesses, people who saw her sneaking around, who know about her manipulations, and who can testify that I've never laid a hand on her. The real kicker was when she tried to get full custody of the kids. She's been spinning stories about how I'm unfit, how I'm unstable, aggressive, and not a good father. I have no idea where she's getting this from, but it's classic manipulation. I've been documenting every interaction with the kids, sending videos and pictures to my lawyer. I want the court to see the truth, that I love my kids, I take good care of them, and I've never done anything to hurt them or threaten their safety. Meanwhile, Emily's been trying to sway the family and friends against me. She's been spreading rumors, making herself look like the victim and painting me as the villain. I've had to counter all that. With my own evidence, screenshots, bank statements, witness testimonies, it's exhausting, honestly. Every day I wake up feeling like I'm fighting a battle I can't see the end of, but I know I have to keep going. I owe it to myself and I owe it to my kids. The emotional toll is brutal. Sometimes I wake up feeling numb, other times I'm furious, and occasionally I just feel hopeless. But I keep telling myself I can't let her win. She's trying to destroy me, my reputation, and everything I've worked for. I won't let her do that. I've learned a lot about manipulation and betrayal through this ordeal. I used to think trust was everything, but now I realize it's fragile, something you have to guard carefully, especially with someone who's capable of so much deception. The most frustrating part, she's still trying to control the narrative. She's been calling my business partners, trying to turn them against me, claiming I've been embezzling or mismanaging funds. None of that is true. I've worked too hard to build my business. But her bitchy attitude and her lying ways make it hard to separate fact from fiction. I've had to provide bank records, audit reports, and testimonials from trusted employees to prove I'm still the same person I've always been. I've also been taking steps to protect what's left of my assets. I've hired a forensic accountant to track down her hidden money, and I've started the process of freezing her accounts. I don't trust her one bit anymore, and I know she's planning her next move. The estate, the business, the money, she's determined to take it all. That's why I've been so aggressive in preparing my case. I refuse to let her walk away with everything I've built. Deep down, I feel drained. It's like I've been running on empty for months now. I miss the days when I trusted her, when I thought we had a future. But I also know I can't go back. I have to keep fighting for what's right, for my kids and for myself. I've learned that betrayal cuts so deep, but it also makes you realize what's truly important. Trust is earned, and once broken, it's almost impossible to fix. But I'm holding on to the truth, and I'm not giving her the satisfaction of winning. One thing I've realized through all this is that people like Emily, manipulative, bitchy, and dishonest, don't change. They just get better at hiding their true selves, so I've become more cautious, more protective of what's mine. I won't let her steal my peace, my reputation, or my future. I've got a long fight ahead, but I'm ready. I've learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to see who's really on your side, and I know now who I can trust and who I can't. The final chapter of this nightmare is still unwritten, but I refuse to let her write it for me. I will stand tall, fight hard, and come out the other side stronger, because at the end of the day, the truth is on my side. And no matter how bitchy or manipulative she gets, I know I've done nothing wrong. I just have to keep holding on until the truth is finally out in the open. The court finally scheduled the final hearing after months of back and forth, lies, and manipulation. I knew Emily was going to pull out all the stops, more false accusations, fake tears, whatever she could do to sway the judge. But I had my proof now, and I was determined to see this through. Every document, every witness, every piece of evidence was meticulously prepared. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything I'd worked so hard for, not without a fight. On the day of the hearing, I felt a mix of exhaustion and resolve. I sat in the courtroom, watching her sit there with that bitchy smirk, trying to look innocent but failing miserably. She'd been trying to paint me as the bad guy for months, but I knew the truth, and I had the proof. The judge listened carefully, going through all the evidence. Her forged documents, the offshore accounts, the explicit texts, the bank statements showing her draining our joint account. Witnesses testified about her manipulative behavior, her lies, her attempts to turn everyone against me. When the judge finally spoke, the room was silent. He looked directly at Emily and then at me, his voice firm. Based on the evidence presented, it's clear that this marriage was built on deception and fraud. The plaintiff, Mr. Smith, is entitled to annulment of the marriage and the return of all assets illegally obtained. Furthermore, the court finds that the defendant, Emily, engaged in manipulative and dishonest conduct designed to defraud her spouse. The court orders the immediate transfer of all assets, including the estate, back to Mr. Smith, and prohibits Emily from making any further claims against him. Hearing those words was like finally taking a deep breath after holding it for months. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, but at the same time I was exhausted emotionally. Emily's face twisted in rage and disbelief. She started yelling, calling the judge biased, claiming she was the real victim. But the judge didn't buy her lies. He looked at her with disgust and told her she'd have to face the consequences of her actions. As I stood there, I realized how much I'd changed during this ordeal. I'd gone from trusting blindly to fighting tooth and nail for what was mine. I'd learned the importance of vigilance, of protecting myself and my assets from someone who would manipulate and betray me. I looked at my kids, who were waiting outside with a family member, and I felt a surge of relief. They didn't deserve to be caught in this mess, and I was determined to shield them from her bitchy attitude and manipulations moving forward. In the aftermath, I started rebuilding my life. The estate was returned to me, and I began the process of reclaiming my business, which Emily had tried to tarnish with false accusations. I also cut all ties with Emily. No more lying, no more manipulative games. I filed for divorce, and the court granted it quickly, citing her fraudulent behavior as the reason. I didn't want to be around her anymore. I saw her for what she was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd lied, cheated, and stolen from me. The emotional scars still linger, but I've learned to move on. I've focused on my kids, my health, and my future. I've started seeing a counselor, not just to heal from all the betrayal, but to rebuild my confidence. I've also become more cautious about who I trust. People like Emily, bitchy, manipulative, and dishonest, are rare, but they exist, and I've learned to spot the warning signs early. Looking back, I realize I was naive to think trust was enough, that love was enough. But now I see that trust has to be earned and maintained. Betrayal cuts so deep, but it also teaches you resilience. I've come out of this stronger, more aware, and more determined not to let anyone else manipulate or hurt me again. To anyone out there who's been betrayed, I'll say this: you're not alone. And even when it feels like everything's falling apart, trust in yourself. Gather your evidence, stand your ground, and fight for what's right. Because in the end, the truth will set you free. And no matter how bitchy or manipulative the other person is, honesty and integrity will always prevail. I've lost a lot, but I've gained clarity, strength, and a future that's finally mine again.